All right, we're back with another episode. Today's special day. Big thanks to Enforce Weapon Lights. I want to thank Enforce. Head over to Enforce Weapon Lights for sponsoring the week. But head over to www.johnbartoloshow and go and check out some of the sponsors. There's probably about a dozen or so sponsors there. Please take a minute to thank some of them if you guys get a moment. And please leave a review on iTunes or Podbean. I think I'm like hovering at like 499 reviews or something. One review shy. So if you get a moment, please go leave some reviews. Appreciate that. This has been a fun couple weeks, and I wanted to get a guest on that could comment on a couple things going on right now. He's a former NFL guy. He's a Maga supporter and just an all-around. We actually share a few connections, which is funny how small the world becomes, but this guy's amazing. He's got a great story. I'm looking forward to hearing it. The one and only Jack Brewer. What's going on, brother?
John, man, what a pleasure to be on, brother. It truly is. And when I hear, when I hear he's a MAGA supporter, I have a lot of pride in that, man. So thank you.
No, of course. And listen, you got an amazing story before we even get into that. But let the viewers know, let everybody know kind of how you got to this place, how you got to this point. I mean, you're wildly connected, and it's interesting to hear your story because it's just we should have met 15 times. But tell your story because I'm really want the listeners to get a feel for how woven you are into so many different things, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I really, got to give all grace to God. Just that's from the beginning. And, I grew up in Texas. I'm a Texas boy, proudly born and raised, and grew up from humble beginnings in Grapevine, Texas. Sports was really my way out, my way to get opportunities and get an education. And, actually just today, man, I had one of my big cousins just passed away. A guy that I looked up to tremendously, and it just really brought me back to my childhood. I watched so many of my older cousins who just got caught up, man. Had all the talent in the world, but never really made it. Never stayed in school. They either dropped out or, had selling drugs or alcoholics, and it's just I watched that. So I watched so many people fail. And it actually motivated me to succeed. And so, I went at it hard, man. Made great grades in school, and ended up getting a chance to play ball at the University of Minnesota. Then went on to the NFL and got a chance to play on 4 different teams, 5 seasons. And I was a captain on 3 teams, man. I was a captain my second year in the NFL, and that was really special to me because, I was able to go into the locker room and, become a leader, even though I was a guy who didn't get drafted. I was an unrestricted free agent, and kind of making your way like that, taking the hard road, and earning the respect of the guys in the locker room, really was special for me. And I think, it really kind of defines me in a lot of ways. I'm not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, but I had a lot of grit. And so it really was humbling to be able to be named captain, on a team when you're not even a starter at a position. Right. So, yeah, man. So it was cool. And then, the NFL really opened up so many doors for me. I went to the University of Minnesota, as I mentioned, and then ended up playing for the Minnesota Vikings as a rookie. I came in, there was like 7 safeties on the roster when I came into camp, and I was an unrestricted free agent. And I ended up having to beat out 4 guys to make the team. And I did it, and, it was really a great feeling, but, that town embraced me. I stayed in my same college apartment my entire rookie season, trying to save my money up a little bit. And, after 2 years, I got a chance to go play for the New York Giants. And, obviously being in New York City, the big lights, camera action, and, that really spurred my entrepreneurial career, so to speak. I had started my first business in college when I was 19. And, when I got a chance to go through the NFL and went to New York, that went to another level. I had two young kids early, man. I was 19 years old when I had my first child. So, playing college ball, playing in the NFL with 2 young kids, I had to really grind. And so, it really taught me, how to kind of, be a man and take care of your responsibilities. And, it was a great experience, and ended up transitioning from the NFL, went right into Wall Street. I was lucky. I graduated with my undergrad and my master's degree before I went to the NFL. And so I always took school really seriously. And after playing in the league, I went back to school, went to Columbia. I took entrepreneurial programs at Harvard and Wharton. Ended up getting my MBA at University of Miami Business. And then, working on Wall Street, it was crazy. It was like being a rookie all over again, getting there early, staying there late, kind of being in the fire in New York City. And so it was really great. And that just, with the New York Giant title and the NFL title, working on Wall Street, I was always in the media. I was doing sports broadcasting and doing my own shows through college and the pros. And that all kind of just came to a head around 2010, 2011. I started doing a lot of CNBC and then transitioned into Fox Business. And now I'm, regular on most of the programs. But that really helped expand my network and gave me access to a lot.
I don't even know where to begin with you. There's so much in everything you just said that hits home, especially, first of all, the whole transition from college life to pro life. I mean, because, I think about, it's been a topic lately, obviously, the Aaron Hernandez deal. I lived through it in New England, seeing that play out. I want to start with, you talked about a homie of yours, losing a homie. That is so I grew up in East Boston, Massachusetts. If you're familiar with the Boston area, you got Southie, you got East. Okay, you got Dorchester, you got Roxbury, you got Charlestown. It's you so many friends you see slip through the cracks, and so many people left with so many questions about how people slip through the cracks. Now we could talk about your buddy, but we could talk about Aaron too as a person. How somebody signs a contract like that, Jack, and isn't able to get it together. You know what I mean? There's no one around them. So it gets into the conversation of circle, life, everything. And we talk a lot with veterans and Leos and making the transition. And it's not always about money. It's about having the right mental place. What advice do you give folks, and what do you see when you look at these situations?
Man, this has been a big part of my career. I got my undergrad in sports management, got my master's in sports management before going on to business school, and a lot of the business endeavors that I've had have been around, advising pro athletes, artists, entertainers in different capacities. And so, man, I've seen it all. I've seen the guys making $50, $60 million and then going broke. I've seen, I've had to personally go and check, dear friends, 28, 29, 30 years old, into mental health wards. I've seen guys who, suicidal from concussions, and I've been around it all. And it really, it's tough, man. It really is. And, I've started a program at the University of Miami in 2014 when I partnered with them to work on an MBA program, a Master's of Business Administration program for athletes. And so we graduated probably 60 athletes in that program. And then I transitioned, and now currently I'm a professor at Fordham Gabelli School of Business, and I run their athletes and artists program where we have athletes and artists that are getting their MBAs as well. So, it acts as kind of a springboard and a platform to mentor many of these pro athletes as they make that transition that you were just talking about. And, it really is a unique situation, because you take a group of guys who have always been the gladiators, they've always been the strongest. They've always been the fastest. So, they've been looked up to by everyone around them. And they have no faults, so when you're put on a pedestal like that, if you have weaknesses, so often it's just so hard, so easy to not address those. And so,
did you mute me? No,
John, sorry about that. I muted you because my sorry about that. My 2-year-old woke up and came downstairs. Oh man, hold on really quick.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm sorry about that, brother. Hold on.
Family times everything.
No, you gotta go. Why you up? Come here. Oh my gosh, that was a shock. John, give me 1 second, man. I'm so sorry, brother. So sorry, man. I can't believe she was with them.
The young bucks.
Come on. I know, but Zaza, Daddy is doing a radio show. You know how Daddy does TV sometimes, and you got to be quiet? Yes, I know, but you just came down screaming, so Daddy had to... Yes, come here, Mama. Oh, man. Sorry, hold on. Sorry, man. Hey, I'm doing a lot. I'm doing a podcast. I know you didn't know, babe. I thought she was asleep.
That's what I want down there.
All right, John.
We're not editing that out because it's real.
I love it.
This is real Corona. This is real.
I love it.
This is life in the Corona fast line. I love it.
Oh, man.
So
yeah.
I'll pick it up. We were on the topic of how guys transition and your passion of speaking with these guys. I can't imagine, Jack, the rooms you've been in and the guys. I picture you like, because you're the voice of reason, right, and everything. I picture you like grabbing people by the hair and pulling them to rehab or whatever. What is it? Like, what is the failure? And you talk about guys being put on a pedestal, and I totally understand that. They're treated like gods, and that's what people don't understand. They're handed everything. But, like, there's always a common mechanism that, like, I said it to someone the other day, like, just to pick on the Aaron Hernandez thing for a second, because the transition is what intrigues me. You sign a big deal, nobody would have cared that the homie was gay. Like, nobody would have cared. He cared. I said this to someone the other day. I go, it bothered him, I think, more than the people around him. Am I right in saying that?
You are 100% right. It bothered him. It ate at him. And that's what causes spiral, because so often it's all about how you're looked at from others, because in football it's about you're always been evaluated, especially in the NFL, college. Where are you ranked? How many catches did you have? Are you on the front page? All of those different things. It's always about is someone else giving you, that love? Is someone else giving you that credibility, that stamp of approval? And that really becomes who you are. You're always trying to be something that a lot of times you're not. And in Aaron Hernandez's case, he could never be who he really was to himself. Mm-hmm. So, that's deep, man. If you think about it, there's not a lot of, you can take when you're in the NFL limelight, it's even deeper, because every Tuesday they're trying out 7, 8, 9, 10 guys to take your position. It's like no other job in the world. Like, you got to come to work and see a bus of guys coming in to take your job every week, and you don't have any guarantees, and they can cut you at any time. So it is a unique dynamic, and I think that's why you see issues a lot of times, particularly in the National Football League, with players going broke and players going bankrupt, and Divorce rates are high. And it really is an issue. And, when you really study it, you see the same issues or similar statistics with folks in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I kind of I realized that, and you talked about Maga earlier, and really with President Trump and him addressing the criminal justice, it really woke me up because I had been teaching pro athletes, and I started looking at the numbers. I'm like, man, that's a high number. You talk about 78, 75, 76%, whatever that number is, any one of those numbers of professional athletes that are going broke and divorced after they retire. And then you look at a guy in prison, and 75, 76, 78% of these prisoners are going back to prison after they get released. So it's all recidivism. It's all, you're not able to fully rehab. And so I saw those similarities. And so I brought my program that I mentioned to you earlier, my MBA program, I brought that into the prisons, right? And so the last year and a half, I've been teaching that same program in the prisons, and, getting my NFL guys involved in the program, getting them to come into the prison to see it. And it's kind of like a therapy, and you can really see, like, man, I didn't have it that bad, and it kind of humbles them in a lot of ways. So I just wanted to bring that up because it was really interesting, the dynamic, man.
Yeah,
it really was.
It's powerful. The thing, the line I draw the parallel is you have a lot of guys that struggle, and when I have like my former Mill guys on and my former Leo guys, they struggle. Everybody always has a struggle with the transition, and a lot of it is because life will always humble you. It's the heaviest burden anyone can carry in any way. But there's also a flip side to that. You brought up earlier having your kids at a young age. Now, I look back at my friends that had kids at a young age, and I'm like, damn, you lucky. Yeah, now they're grown. You know what I'm saying? So when it starts out, when you're young, you know what I'm saying, Jack? You look at that and you're like, oh, wow, he got kids. He's only 19 or 20. When you're 40, you're like, damn, them kids out of the house. I haven't even had any yet. He's lucky.
Right.
So your perspective is everything. Perspective is everything in every situation. And when I look across the spectrum, I try to tell people, I've always been of the school of just, well, let's look at it from this perspective. And that's something that had to play into your thinking when you made the transition and the now famous comment that Trump was the first black president, and you were a career Democrat and you made the switch. And I had a lot of friends that did that slowly but surely. What was the genesis of that? Was it just taking that different perspective? Was it just kind of like looking at it from a different angle? Where did that come from?
First off, I think it came from my lifetime of service, man. I have kind of poured my heart into underserved communities, man. And, I started my foundation back in 2006, and, building the orphanages in Africa. I feed about 15,000 kids a day over there. I've started some pretty large women's health initiatives, and we screen women's cervical cancer. I've been in the poorest of the poor, watching babies that don't get access to clean water every day. I do the same thing in Haiti where, we have orphanages there. We have women's health hospitals that I've helped build. And it's just the reason I say that is because it's caused me not to make excuses. So that victim mentality that oftentimes we see in America, it just doesn't play very well with me, man. And, I started the NFL Players for Obama in 2008, fundraised for him, actually donated all his furniture for his Minnesota office, and was a huge supporter, and, as things went on and re-election came, I supported him again in 2012. But then, got to be 2014, 2015, and I look up and all those inner city neighborhoods that I work in and all those programs that I try to help out both here in the U.S. and abroad. I'm like, this guy hadn't done anything for the people, man. And let's just keep it real. He hasn't done anything for black and brown people who, in America, black people are the sickest, the poorest, and the most uneducated segment of our population, man. Our kids have the lowest reading levels, right? Our women have the lowest health levels. You know, we have the highest rates of obesity, the highest rates of high blood pressure, the highest rates of diabetes, the highest rates of certain cancers. I mean, this is just, it is what it is. And so to have a man who is of African descent in the White House that gets 96% of the black vote, to stand and have that much power and not really push an African American or a black agenda to uplift the poorest of the poor. I don't care what race you are. If you're the president, you're supposed to want to help the most underserved people, anyone with power. And so I didn't see that in him. And at some point, then comes President Trump down that escalator, and he said, "What do you have to lose?" And I listened to him. I voted for him, the first Republican and the only Republican I've ever voted for in my life, Donald J. Trump. I voted for Donald Trump and all Democrats on the other elections or the other races that were going on in 2016. You hear me?
Yeah.
Because I was raised to think, brainwashed, by the way, to think that if you were black, you had to vote for Democrats. Well, Donald Trump made me think differently. And that's why I brought up that earlier about criminal justice reform. When you have a white president who really has it, he will say this. He said it to me personally on a number of occasions. He has an African American agenda. Like, he actually in his head has an agenda for black people. And no one else has ever done that in my generation, not during my time. So everyone wants to hide and run away from the facts in our country. Let's uplift the bottom. And so that's what Donald Trump has done. I mean, he's done it from criminal justice reform, you know, even the bill he passed for AIDS and HIV, right? AIDS affects 45% of people with AIDS in America are black, and we're 12% of the population, man. You know, you look at our neighborhoods, our inner city neighborhoods, you go into these places, no one's putting any real investment dollars into these inner city neighborhoods with all this gun violence and all this crime. There, he passes opportunity zones, and boom, billions of dollars of investments coming within 12 months into the inner cities of America, right? And you talk about school choice. School choice is one of the civil rights issues of our time. To deny a poor kid to be able to choose what school they want to go to if they're stuck in an area with a terrible public school, giving them the option to go an extra mile or 2 miles away from their home to go to a better school, denying the kid that right should be criminal, man. And the Democrats push that stuff. And so, I mean, I can go on policy, but it's like at some point you got to keep it real. And that's why I called him the first black president. I called him the first black president because, John, they treat him like he's black. They treat him the same way they treated Martin Luther King. They treat him the same way they treated Malcolm X, any of the other black leaders that have come through America. They investigate him. They throw the FBI. They throw all these government agencies at him, right? Putting him through all these witch hunts, like attacking the man's family. That's the same way they treat black people, man. So to me, he is the first black president.
Now, I think it's even a little bit deeper. The color barrier for him is definitely there, in my opinion. I agree with you. I think it's even goes so far as to be an inner city issue. You know, I've seen Democrat after Democrat in my own neighborhood and growing up in Boston elected over and over and over again, and you don't see much change. You don't see anything change. And, you know, I mean, for me growing up, you know, I always joke we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor. You know, if you had great parents, you know, they kind of shielded you from that type of stuff.
Right.
But the reality is, for me, I always say, I look at him and I looked at the situation, and I had every right to grow up a Democrat. I had no right getting into the gun business being where I was from, but I just always took a different perspective in looking at things. And I didn't understand sometimes the issues that he had to deal with and overcome. And I think he's incredibly smart. Now, where I'm going with this is I look out there, the Democratic Party, by all intents and purposes, post-Obama should have been totally poised to take over the internet, to be in a successful position, to have all these young, great candidates, to be flush. So even to his own party, in my opinion, Obama was a detriment because they can't even muster a good candidate. And I don't see any building. I don't see any structure. I see it in shambles. And we can blame Hillary for that. We can blame him for that. And to me, that's even one of the biggest tells. If you can't build your own party, the structure of your own party on the back of 2 terms, what good are you then? It's like saying, Jack, I'm going to give you $50 million of private equity money. Go build me a business, and I'm going to give you 8 years, and I'm not even going to look in your direction. You're going to be like, shit, I'm sailing. And
John, in order to build anything, you need a foundation. Well, when Barack Obama passed several of his policies that he passed, he destroyed the foundation of not just the Democratic Party, but he chipped away at the foundation of America. And you can't be so concerned with money, right? The Democratic Party, they only push policies that they can fundraise around. So whether it's gay marriage, whether it's abortion, whether it's gun rights, school shootings, they raise money around every one of those things. And that's where they get the vast majority of the dollars that they run a campaign on. It comes down to money because the American people talk. The hardworking middle-class American talks. They don't donate to that stuff. That's not what's important to them. And so, now their party is built around all of that. That's divisiveness, right? They got a lot of things that, I'm sorry, but when I look in the state of New York and I see that there's more black babies aborted than they are born, I got a problem with that. That's a systematic, something's messed up. And that's where your leaders are supposed to step in there and start educating people, right? And instead they promote it as something that should be praised. And it's really sad, and it goes to the core of our country. Like, our principles were not built on that. Our foundation was not built on that. That's not what America is about, and that's the battle we're facing right now. And that's, thank God we have Donald J. Trump, because for a guy like me to be advocating this Trump, I will fight you for Donald Trump. I'll stand up next to him all day because I know he has my back and he has his country's back. And see, for me to even be saying that, I'm already.
Oh, you're
like,
you're already Uncle Tom. You're
I'm
Satan.
an Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
I'm an Uncle Tom. I'm Satan. But for the fact that I'm going to do that, the reason I'm going to do that is because it is that deep for me spiritually. Because I see what the other side has called, and they're normalizing really demonic behavior. Man, they've normalized it. It's sick.
And I want to get into one topic I want to get into with you, because we could spend all day doing this, but I'm telling you. But I want to get into the inner city gun issue, and I want to you use an example, because obviously, my industry, we've said it for a long time, and this is what I never understand. And I had this conversation with the NSSF, the NRA. USCCA is coming on, United States Concealed Carry Association. This is what I can't figure out. And you go into some of these areas, like you look at Virginia, it's a mess. You look at California, it's a mess. Chicago's a mess on the gun issue. And my issue here is, why these lawmakers, Biden's walking around, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. They don't get a group together. I look at gun shops and I look at a lot of these places, these FFL owners, they're great people. They're great Americans. Most of your gun owners are your concealed carry permit holders, are some of your best law abiding citizens. Okay.
Right.
And I see the inner city gun issue as a non-factor to the gun industry and an FFL shop or anything else, but Democrats use it as a tool to say, if we close a gun shop, that's going to stop crime. That's the crust of their argument. If we stop the ability to have guns and ammo in a gun shop, that will stop crime. It's the most preposterous argument, Jack, ever in the history of, it's the biggest crime ever committed. And they get away with it. And they get away with pumping that narrative. When I say to myself, I go to a gun shop, you got to fill out 45 forms. You got to submit a blood sample. You got to give fingerprints. You got to do this. You got to do that just to leave there. And then, like with California with this COVID, people are realizing I got a 10-day wait period before I can even take it home. And I've had gun shop owners on. They're like, yeah, you don't know that? Like, you can't just go home with it today. And they're like, there's going to be an awakening in that script at some point, because people are realizing, we had 3.5 million people go through the NICS check last month. To put that in perspective, the highest it's ever been is about 2.5. Okay. 1 million plus additional people went and purchased firearms. And we don't even know how many. Some people say 6 million. Some people say 7 million. And a lot of those were probably fringe people. And I think this month it's going to be even just as high, if not right on the cusp of that. But do you feel the inner city gun issue is an FFL issue, and how have the Democrats kind of used that as a tool?
No, it's ridiculous, first off. And I'll tell you why. I like to go to real examples. And you mentioned earlier the Democratic leaders. You look at every single inner city. Every single inner city has usually a black Democratic congressman and mayor, whomever else. And they all talk about guns, but when they have 30 or 40 people, black on black crime, shot in the community, they don't say a word. And what really hit me, and Elijah Cummings, God rest his soul, when I live in Parkland, Florida, where they had the mass shooting here, terrible. My neighbors were in the school, and it was just ravaged our whole small little community here. After that shooting, I see Democrats from Baltimore and Illinois and all these cities protesting about the Parkland shooting. And that killed me, right? I understand why. I understand that they were emotional. But I never see one single congressional leader. I never see one governor stand up when all these kids get shot every weekend. We're in the middle of COVID-19. And 2 weekends ago in Chicago, 28 people got shot. And they're supposed to be on lockdown in the house. Mm-hmm. But you don't hear them say a word about that. But all of a sudden, now you want to fundraise money to try to take away our Second Amendment rights. And you want to point out inner city issues. We talk about legal gun owners. I think it's disgusting, man. It really is. But it tells you what type of humans we have in office on that other side. Can you imagine, John, being a congressperson representing the district where you have dozens of people getting murdered every week? I mean, what else would you be? What else would you be in D.C. talking about? They don't say a word about it. They don't say a word about it until it comes to fundraising. And you let a school shooting happen that's all in the media. They're in the front headlines of that. But they don't have a memorial, right? They don't go into the community and actually try to fix the issues that are with gun violence, which is obviously the gangs, which is also education, the education and the income disparities. They're not trying to get to the root causes of it. And culturally, right? Culturally, how is it accepted to walk other folks that look like you, like for no reason, just because they were a different color than you. You don't think that's a cultural issue? Of course it is, but they want to dress those. They want to go after law-abiding gun owners. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Like,
crazy.
Where's the logic? You're going against people that usually are using stolen guns and haven't got them legally, and usually it's turf war. Somebody shooting each other because another person selling drugs on their turf, which is usually the reason why they get shot. So you're going to take those reasons and then attack law-abiding American taxpayers who are the ones who we want to have guns. It is ridiculous, and at some point, someone needs to call them out. That's what needs to happen. Someone needs to call these Congress people and these leaders out who stay quiet about the root issues that are causing all this black-on-black carnage going on in our country, because it's really sad. In every single one of the areas is led by Democrats. Every single one.
Yeah, the worst part for me, Jack, is the failure for some of these guys to actually get educated. They don't even know what they're talking about. They get in front of a camera. I know the gun industry cold. And you go to California, and they've pretty much tried to ban every little button or switch on an AR-15. They don't understand the culture. They don't take a minute to understand it. They just blame the tool. And, you know, I've appealed to the gun industry insanely through this podcast and through other forums to try to skew their marketing, to have them stop making it about the gun and push that in the marketing narrative, because you give them the ammunition. Because if you change it to shotgun or anything else, revolver, right, it'd be even funnier, because you'd start to see Democrats start to be like, we need to really ban revolvers, because they're just using whatever they use whatever we give them as cannon fodder for the news, right? They don't do any research. There's no understanding of what they're even banning, what they're even doing when they establish these laws. They don't even take the time to sit down with the people and hear the arguments. And I try to explain, listen, have you been in an FFL, a gun shop? Have you visited? Have you talked to some of these owners? Some of these guys are great Americans. They're great people. And they're some of the best people. And a lot of these are small, family-owned businesses, most of them, okay? You know, by and large, a lot of the big box stores are getting out of the game or slowly stepping out of the game. Walmart doesn't even want to sell ammunition anymore. I think it was Bass Pro and Cabela's pulled ARs from the sales SKUs. You know, they don't even sell them anymore. So at this point, you know, it's gotten to the ridiculousness of demonizing the tool. And that's, to me, that's so preposterous. It's the equivalent of saying, we're going to ban, hammers, because a hammer can be used to kill someone. And it's absolutely insane to me. But I think
it is. It's the same thing. They do the same concept with abortion. We're not going to tell you stop having sex with everyone. We're not going to tell you that that's wrong. We're going to just tell you to kill the kid, right? We're not. So we're not going to say that you having the willingness to kill someone else, that's not wrong. It's the tool in which you use to kill them. That's who we're going to blame it on. It's crazy, man.
It's crazy.
It's demonic. It's a demonic way of thinking. What it is. It has no spiritual foundation in it. Both of those things that we just said have no spirituality in it whatsoever, because it takes away the human responsibility.
Right. You're absolutely right. And I think it's been a political ping pong ball for way too long. And it's going to be very interesting in this coming election how it's used, because you have a lot of new gun owners out there. And if you paid any attention to anything in California, they got cleaned out every store. Every store in Philadelphia, cleaned out. I talked to a friend of mine in Jersey, cleaned out, shelves empty. Okay, pallets of ammunition. Jack, pallets I'm talking about thousands and thousands of rounds. So a lot of that is obviously pre-existing owners, but we know that there's a million new gun owners out there
Right.
to some extent. So the numbers jumped exponentially. And I know because the amount of people that called me and just to have the conversation, hey, I'm thinking of, getting one. So I think there's a shift coming. I think there's a huge shift coming in that narrative. And I think coming into the election, that's going to be a very, very delicate issue. I don't think you'll see Biden bring it up too much because I just think if he has an advisor around him worth their salt, they're going to say, why don't we stay away from that one right now because we don't have data on these new owners yet. What do you say?
Yeah, and I think it's a time for people like yourself, John, to start teaching people the history of gun ownership in America, man. I mean, the ability to bear arms has helped a lot of our most underserved and oppressed people out of their oppression, man.
Yep.
I mean, I obviously I care a lot about the civil rights movement, but without the Second Amendment, we don't get through it the same way. You know what I mean? So, the right to bear arms in this country is in the fabric of our country, and they try to make it into a divisive issue. Like everything else the left does, they try to make it about race and identity. They try to make everything about identity, man. And so if you own a gun or you're for your Second Amendment rights, they try to label you and put you into this category. And I think what you're saying is people are waking up to that. And now they can't touch these issues because the folks that they're trying to paint as in one category don't really fit what they're trying to characterize them as. So, I mean, this is a powerful moment in our country, man. I think, the identity politics are going to really come to head. This is going to be a very interesting election. That's why they want this coronavirus to last as long as possible. So they don't got to get front and center on these issues and talk to the American people. But I mean, that's not going to happen, man.
I think it's going to blow up in their face.
Yeah.
I think it's going to blow up in their face. No pun intended. I think that they're in for a rude awakening because the pushing of this agenda, because I think they viewed the coronavirus as their last ditch effort to really back Trump into a corner. And I don't see it playing out well, Jack. I don't see it playing out the way that they wanted the narrative, the same as it went for the impeachment hearings, the same as it's gone before, because now you have this Biden situation with this sexual allegation. That's a mess. Okay.
Yep.
Now the woman has 3 or 4 corroborators. She has a tape from Larry King, and you have all these people now that were running around saying Donald Trump, right? And Joe Biden is like, trying to do a cover up here. It's like a full blown cover up. So I look out there and I just kind of see the landscape shifting, and it could put the Democrats in a hole, but you got to get the vote out. And I think people have to understand, especially we talk about a lot of things, transitioning, gun ownership, people's rights, the awakening. I think it's going to be a tall task. I think things that you're doing, Candace Owens has done, certain folks, Charlie Kirk's done a great job of getting in and educating a lot of the young people. He's been on the show. I think it's just going to come down. I hate the term awakening, Jack. I think it's more of people just need to do the math. People need to sit down and do the math at this point and take party out of it. And I think that's what you did when you did a deep dive analysis. I don't think it was about party. I think it was just about, let me do the math on this. I'm a bright guy. I'm educated. I got all these pieces of paper that say so. And let me just put the puzzle pieces together and do my own analysis. And when you did, you came up with, hey, look, this guy didn't do shit for me. Let me look at this guy and give him a chance. At what point do they have to give him a chance and will they at any point?
A lot of them won't. And you got, call it 50% that will never look that way because they've been completely brainwashed and they're just living in a brainwashed world. But then you have, and the reason he won the last election is because you had guys like me who may not have gone out vocally in 2015, right? Going into the election, I wouldn't go out yelling and screaming it then just because, I believed in him and I believed in him and I was going to vote for him no matter what. But I didn't have the proof behind me yet. So there was, I couldn't really base my arguments on anything other than words. Now I have an arsenal of policies. So now when I talk to people, I can have educated debates that they just can't win unless they're not driven by facts. And I think that's what we're going to be able to do going into this election, which is why I got so involved in the campaign and why I've continued to be more and more vocal, is because I know that someone who wants to support someone like Joe Biden, who wrote the 94 crime bill, who mass incarcerated black men, who in a lot of ways, caused our fatherlessness crisis in our country, it's going to be hard for him to sit on the debate stage against Donald Trump, who has reversed his policies, right? I mean, you think about fatherlessness in America, we got over 70% of black kids are born without a father in the house. That stuff is sick. That's a real issue, man. And so the Democrats don't want to talk about that issue because they know their policies are what has led to that, whether it's in education, whether it's criminal justice, whether it's their welfare and entitlement policies. I mean, you're a woman right now, single mom, have a kid, you're from a poor house, and you go to the government to get WIC for your baby. If you get married, they take that away from you, right? You're living in a Section 8 home, getting government assistance, you're 17, you had a kid, whatever, 18 years old. You get married, they take that away from you. They don't give you a year or year and a half to say, hey, get on your feet and you're glad you got married, now build a family, build some wealth. They don't do that. Those are Democratic policies, right? Because they want you to break up that family. They want you to become dependent upon the government because they know if you depend upon the government, you don't keep voting for them because they're taking care of you. So it's just like, it's a sick cycle that they've created, man. And I think Donald Trump is the only one who has the voice, who has the courage, who's smart enough, man, has an army of people behind him who can actually put that message out. And now, with his Black Voices for Trump, which I'm co-chairing his fundraising committee for Black Voices for Trump, when you start to really attack it, and I give him a lot of credit for this, because you look back over history, man, I know in my lifetime, Republicans didn't even go to the black areas. Republicans didn't even really campaign for the black folks. I mean, President Trump is all in. I mean, he has committees, and I've been on two White House coronavirus calls addressing coronavirus in the black community, with the vice president on it, with the the Surgeon General on it, and all of these top people. That's when he cares, man. So it's just that message will get out. It won't get out through the liberal media. It will get out through folks like you. Social media is so big for us right now, just to tell the truth. But it really is about educating people, man. And that's why I always talk about policy and stats, because the more you can get, Trump supporters understanding what the policies really look like and really say, the more likely we can take some of these independent voters and some of these folks that are waking up and convert them over, to the family, man. Bring them to Maga country.
Yeah, it's just an understanding. Like I loved, one of the things I loved in the industry was when I think it was Mark Robinson got up in Greensboro and spoke to a city council. He was a black gun owner, legal gun owner, got up there, spoke about his rights, spoke about the infringements, and that's what it's all about. It's about speaking out about things you feel are being done unjustly and having a conversation. And these are conversations now with social media and with the rise of social media, Jack, that we're able to have and we're able to put out there into the space. And I think that's a big shift that's coming that I don't think the Democrats are fully prepared for because they were so used to controlling the narrative. Well, that's all gone now because you have podcasts, you have platforms you're building that have been built, and people have the ability to get out there and speak. And when Mark got up there and spoke, it sent shockwaves through the gun industry. One of my best friends in the gun business is a black tactical industry owner. He owns a business, excuse me, in the tactical industry. And another friend of mine is that one of the head instructors at Glock, and they're so proud of their right. And they're so proud of what they do and the business that they're in. And I think for a long time, the Democrats also tried to paint a picture that most gun owners were white and that was it. And they were just going to say they're the devil. Like that's the devil's group and no one should have anything to do with that and you should just stay away from it. And it's comical to me because now it's all coming out and you have people speaking out about it. And you have people like Post Malone even now in Hollywood and people talking about it. It's all coming to light. And it's only a matter of time now before this tidal wave of realism. And like I said, I hate the word awakening. Realism kicks in because I look at it as simple as this. Do the math on it. Just do the math. Ask the questions. Ask the right questions. Get around guys like you that are forming these great coalitions in these great groups and listen to what they have to say with an open mind and take it all in and give it a minute to sink. Don't just make a decision because Oprah Winfrey got up on a stage with you. Don't just make a decision because whoever it is partnered with someone. Make the decision on your own.
No, you're right, man. You have to, in order to evolve, in order to really have true understanding, you gotta at least look at what the other side is offering you, right? And everyone has their gauge. Some people, it may be, how they were raised, their morality. Some people it's their religion and their faith. For me, it's my faith. It goes back to that. That's where I find my center. I find my center in Jesus. And so, when I look at these policies and I go have my perspectives on these different things, it's like, okay, first, does it really align with what the Bible teaches me and what my spirituality leads me? And it's just, man, I hate to say it. I was talking to my good friend Michael and Dale about this yesterday. And it's just like, I'm sorry, man, but it's getting kind of skewed, like one side is going as far away from that as possible. And at some point, you just can't be okay with that. We can't be so politically correct that we just accept everything without standing for anything. You got to stand for something. And so, I think that's what you're seeing. You say everyone wants to make everyone happy, especially on the left. They're not going to say anything. They don't want to offend anybody. Guns are bad. Everyone with a gun is bad. It's like, how are you going to label people as being bad or, as using their identity against them because they legally own a gun? You never hear anyone come out on the left and say, all these murderers are bad. All the guys out here who are shooting at each other on their corner selling dope, they're bad. They don't say that. They call out the legal gun owners, and that's who they attack. It's really sick, man. You really look at it. It really is sick for you to be able to create a reality in your head that attacks someone innocent, yet you overlook the real issues because it doesn't fit with your agenda politically.
Yeah, it's just out of control. In the sense that you just have this tidal wave of thoughts, them just trying to throw shit against the wall and see what sticks. And it's truthfully what it is, in my opinion. And when I look at it, like I said, I grew up in an inner city, and for all intents and purposes, never should have got into the business I was in, never should be a Republican. I grew up in Kennedy country. But the way I look at it is I just kind of take each issue on its own and say, well, how do I feel? and how does that affect me? And the more people start doing that, and I think social media helps with that. I truly do. As much as Democrats control the social media waves, they're a demon of their own devices. And you see it. You see the shift in all of that coming. And, Jack Dorsey's an interesting one with Twitter. We'll see how that plays out. He's an interesting one because he's probably the freest thinker of them all. And he goes on his sabbaticals, and we'll see how, he may come back, and you never know. He might have some weird awakening. He's been very open to doing Rogan. He's done, he's been outspoken about some things. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But how do you see the next 6 months go and the next 8 months as we lead into November?
Man, it's going to be crazy. I think, a lot will be telling with these individuals.
Do you think deep down they think they have a chance, the Democrat? I mean, that's a serious question. Do you think they really?
No question they do. No question they do. I think they are planning on having either a vice president that can take over for Biden or having someone who can step in. I think they understand and see clearly where his mental condition is, and he's just just like we all have older parents or grandparents and folks in our lives who are on mental declines, and we see it in America. I know people don't want to say that publicly. I have no problem saying it because it's what I see. I pray for Joe Biden. I hope he gets better, and I hope he has a great remainder of his life. But for him to be president of the United States of America, I mean, that's just even crazy that we're even talking about it. When you see clearly what this guy, where his mental state is. So, I think they believe that they can outsmart America. I think that they believe that with all the media that they have behind them on the liberal side, that they can paint a narrative of the president. And I think, they believe that they can get to those independent voters and try to paint the president as immoral. I think these allegations that came out against Biden are going to be tough because they're not going to go away. But it's a morality. They're talking about the soul of America. If you see their messaging, they're talking about the soul of America and what that looks like. And if we go at this election and we take our gloves off, we won last year with our gloves on. Didn't get too nasty. Could have got a lot worse. This year we got to take our gloves off. And it's got to be, it's going to be a spiritual battle. We got to call the left out for who they are and what they really do and educate the world. It's just amazing, man, how many people who vote Democrat that don't even understand what policies that Democrats stand for. That's what blows me away. I think there's such a big opportunity if we educate. If we go the route of educating, let them attack, we educate. Let them attack and we educate. If we do that, we'll win by a landslide because there's just so many people on the left that are just, they're walking around and their eyes are open, but they can't see. We got to bring that education to them and let them see. But, it will be interesting, I think, with these governors are going to open up these states at different times. And, you're going to see really a lot of this coronavirus stuff continue to be politicized, particularly on the state level, because it's all they got. It's really all they got. The only way that they have a chance is if they can prolong this recovery effort long enough to hit this economy hard enough. And they're willing to do that, which is sick, but they're willing to do that.
Yeah, I say this. I think he has too much baggage at this point. I think between the son who's a disaster, between the disaster, and between the allegations now coming out, that takes anything they were going to throw at the president off the table in that space. They got anyone that supported him backing off because of that initially, at least through the summer. So you're going to see that cool. And he doesn't, like you said, you know, you never want to see someone on the decline, right? Like nobody likes to see their heroes decline. Nobody wants to see that. And I think he's had a great run of service. I just think that his selection for vice president is going to be everything. That's going to be the key, Jack. So he's going to have to pull a wild card. He's going to have to pull an ace. And similar to what we saw McCain go through, you know, McCain knew he had to pull an ace when he ran, and he did to an extent, but she had her own baggage they didn't know anything about. But, you know, I think that's going to make or break him. And it's just going to be too hard, I think. I just don't see somebody out there, you know, that's going to be able to be, you know, what are you going to do? Cory Booker, Kamala? I mean,
I think he's going Klobuchar.
Maybe.
And I just don't think that that's going to hold weight. You know, maybe it helps them win Minnesota because they were on the verge of losing that and still could very well. But I think, you know, Biden has to know deep down inside that whoever he's going to pick as a running mate, the only way they're going to use the votes is if people think they're ready to be president. I mean, this guy clearly is not going to make it through, you know, for definitely not 8 years of being a president of the United States of America. I think everyone knows that, even on the left. And so what you really got to look at is, can they get the voter turnout for Biden? I just don't know.
Yeah, I see him even going wilder than that. I was going to say I see maybe even a dark horse in Michelle Obama.
Yeah, I don't think she'd run, though.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I don't think she wants it, but I think I'm if I was a betting man, I'd say they went to her.
That would be the only way that they make it into a real race. And, you know, then you'd have, you know, people in the center who are still Obama fans because he just rates so high.
Because the nostalgia, you know, it's just the nostalgia. You know, obviously Clinton's off the table, Cuomo's off the table. You know, Elizabeth Warren, no chance. It's going to be, to me, Klobuchar, Kamala. You know, I think they went to Michelle Obama, but there's just no meat on that bone. There's really no reason for her to do it. There's no benefit. I think, you know, the concession was, hey, we'll give you the support, which came in late, by the way, which was funny.
Late.
Yeah, which was funny. We'll give you the support, but we're not gonna do that. I think that was the concession. I think they went to her and they said, we'll give you the kitchen sink, and she said, you're fucking crazy. So, you know. Yeah. There's no way, but you could be right. You know, to try to reclaim Minnesota, you know, they'll go with Amy. But you know, it's going to be interesting how it plays out and what top issues they tackle. I think the gun thing is a boondoggle. I just don't think they'll have enough data because the gun sales are off the chart in March, which is the kiss of death. April off the charts. How do you bring that up and make that an issue when you have so much? You know how it goes with these institutes. They need to get data on who those new gun owners are. It's going to take them 3 months to compile data because the run's still going on. So I just don't know. It's going to have to be Corona is going to be the big issue, and it's going to be that appeal to the inner city. So
you're right. And because the gun issue, if you look at the swing states, right, you know, most of those swing states, you know, folks are loading up right now. Yeah. They're buying guns. They're not selling them.
Out of control.
So that's right. Out of control. I mean, so if you look at that, I mean, I think you're right. I think that's why they are just counting on this coronavirus hurting this economy. I think that's a big issue. And they also know that, you know, the president has made such strides with minority voters. And, you know, the Democrats have to hold on to, you know, 90% of the black vote and, you know, the majority of that Hispanic vote to win. They have to. And I just think, you know, if the president continues to stay on message, continues to talk about the many policies that he's passed to help so many minorities, I think that's going to be the difference maker. If he can get, you know, anywhere between 15 and 20% of the African American vote, which I think he will, man. I think the black male vote will be a huge turnout for him. I just know so many folks that are waking up. And, you know, it's hard to not vote for this president if you're black and you got, you know, one of your family members who's been in prison for 15 years for selling drugs, and all of a sudden he's let out and coming home. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people that fall into that category now. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's hard. It's you know, he's doing so many good things that if we can just get through this coronavirus and find just a little bit of normalcy again, I think he's going to win by a landslide.
Now, here's the last question, the $1 million one. When do you run?
Oh man, you know what? I get asked this question a lot, and you know I've lived a life of service, and you know I let guys kind of lead my decision making, especially on stuff like that. You know, if it's what God wanted me to do one day to run for a political office, I would. You know, I'm not completely opposed to it, but it's definitely not something that I'm, you know, kind of leaning towards doing or trying to set myself up for. But, you know, I do believe in service, and I think, you know, the ultimate service is going and giving up your lifestyle, giving up all your privacy and kind of putting your life out there and really serving the country. I think that's the ultimate. And, you know, that's why I look up to all the service members and really everybody, all the frontline workers, folks that are each and every day of their life, they get up to serve our fellow Americans. And, you know, I'd never say it's something that I won't do, because I think that is truly the ultimate. So if God calls me to do it, man, I will. You know, I think, you know, our country is at a point where, man, just to be blunt, we need more strong black leaders. We really do.
100%.
Because we got, I mean, in our inner cities and a lot of our areas, we got culture crisis going on where, you know, we highlight and we encourage folks that don't necessarily do good things. You know, it's a lot of negativity that goes on, and our kids are hurting. They need strong role models. And, you know, I talked about all the things that we're deficient in, and we have so much talent, man. We have so much talent, and, you know, we really do need strong leaders that can come back and instill discipline again into our home.
And people have said to me, they say, why do I even say, you know, 100% or I agree with that? You know, what's my take on, you know, what do I get out of it as a white male, right? I always say rising tides raise all ships.
Amen, brother.
You gotta pull communities up, and you have to help people. It's common sense to me. Common sense to me. And I think if you pull those communities up, educate them, and I say community, I don't say color, I say community. You pull those communities up and you elevate them, and you get them great jobs, you get them integrated into the unions, into working force, into taking pride in not only their retirement, their family structure, everything. I think that helps everybody. That helps the economy. That helps everybody. It's a community issue beyond anything. And I think you rising tides will raise all ships, and I will say that until the day I'm gone. I just think it's a calling, and you have to want to do it. And if you know, some people just don't. I ask you out of respect, because you're a leader. You're clearly a leader. You're clearly someone in those communities that can make a difference, that can make a change. I think people can relate to you. I think at the end of the day, though, the biggest stigma you'll have to overcome is people will say, Uncle Tom, or he educated, it's just all bullshit. And you're going to have to overcome that even in your own community, which is a motherfucker to begin with.
No, it really is. And it's a reality, and it just highlights how far we really have to go. Mm-hmm. You know, when people will label you something and talk about you, and they know themselves that they don't really do anything to help their own people. They're not really out here working for others, but yet they'll comment and say things like that. And it's really sad, man, that, you know, when you have people that have bought in to the same identity warfare that has really oppressed us. You know, they've bought into that same mentality that oppressed blacks for so many years in our country, they've now bought into that and now are supporting that, and they don't even realize it. It really is sad, man.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. This has been amazing, dude. We covered so much. I don't even know where to. We could go forever. We're gonna have to do it again because we didn't even get in. We didn't even get into the NFL draft.
No, brother. Right?
We didn't even get into the NFL draft. We didn't even talk about my Patriots. We didn't even talk about any of that stuff. We didn't even get into The Last Dance because I've been watching that. I got so much we could cover. Did you get a chance to tune into The Last Dance at all?
Yes, I did. I did.
You up to all 4 episodes before I say anything?
No, I have not.
All right, I'm not going to say. But I didn't know. I am going to say this. I didn't know how much Jordan and Isaiah hated each other.
Oh, yeah, man.
I didn't realize how deep that hate was.
It was deep. It was really deep.
I didn't realize how bad, but it's amazing. I can't wait till it ends. That's a whole nother topic because I'm a hoops guy. I love hoops, but I didn't realize that. But do you have Jordan or LeBron as your best all time?
Jordan, no question. It's not even close.
That's not even.
Yeah,
close.
you can't lose that many championships with talent around you and say you're better than Jordan. It just can't happen.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's an awesome special. It's fucking. I can't wait till you catch up and then finish it. It's freaking awesome. But I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you taking the time to talk. Let everybody know where they can find you and how anybody can reach out to you that wants to get involved in anything you have going on.
Definitely, man. All of my Twitter and social media channels is at Jack Brewer, BSI, and it's Boy Sam Igloo, Brewer Sports International. And you can follow me on social media. My website is thebrewergroup.com, and just passionate about our charity. So if anyone wants to go on, check out what we do, come on a charity mission with us. I host missions to Haiti and Africa, and you can come see our orphanages and a lot of the things we do. That's really where I'm able to pour my passion to the most underserved in our world, who folks are living without clean water and food every day, and mothers forced to go days without feeding their kids. I mean, those are things that most of us in America can't even imagine. So we do what we can to try to help those folks, but you can find information on that at the jackbrewerfoundation.org. And I appreciate you, John, for letting me highlight some of this stuff, man.
No, listen, we're going to have to do it again, especially after the election. There'll be plenty more to talk about. And if you make it out to Vegas, you got to come in studio and do it. I appreciate you taking the time. And listen, this is amazing. What you're doing is amazing. I think everybody's got to pay closer attention to this and do their own math. That's all I can keep saying. I can't thank you enough. And if I can ever be a resource, I'm always here.
I appreciate it, John, man. Let me know. I'll join you anytime, brother.
Yeah.
Let's keep fighting a good fight, man.
I appreciate the sponsors. I appreciate everyone at www.johnbartoloshow.com, and especially Enforce Weapon Lights. I can't thank Jack enough. It's been an amazing show. And, everyone stay vigilant. Get ready for the election post-corona.
Right.